What's going on, guys? Welcome back to the channel. In this video, we're going to be doing a little showdown between GM's Super Cruise here on the 2024 Chevy Equinox EV and Autopilot and full self-driving on my 2024 Tesla Model 3. I just want to see how these two systems really compare, and we're going to be doing it fairly. We're going to be putting the Equinox EV and the Tesla Model 3 both on the highway, and then at the end of the video, I'll show you kind of where Super Cruise falls apart, and that is anywhere not on the highway, right? Or a pre-mapped highway, that is. And we're gonna do this one kind of special. I'm gonna be wearing the GoPro on my head so you guys can get a POV view of what it actually looks like to use both of these systems. How good do I look? Should I keep this kind of my look going forward? Let's get it out here, let's get on the highway, and let's do this. If you guys wanna watch my full review of the 2024 Equinox EV, I'll have it linked in the card above and in the description. But I talked a lot about Super Cruise in that video because it's only the second time that I'd ever used Super Cruise. I couldn't really remember what to expect, but this is gonna be a little bit more of a test than I did in that video. So we're about to get on the highway here, so if I try and push Super Cruise now, Super Cruise unavailable, no road information. That's because, like I said, you can only use this on pre-mapped highways. So that is something that Tesla's Autopilot or Hyundai's Highway Drive Assist 2 or Volkswagen's Travel Assist, all of those can at least enable on city streets, even though they're not meant to be used there. But now that we are on the highway here, well, we're actually not. We're almost on the highway. We're still in the turning lane, and Super Cruise will not turn on. But now that we are actually on the pre-mapped highway, you'll see I push the button, and this steering wheel light turns green here, letting you know that Super Cruise is enabled. It's gonna watch my face with this little guy right here, but we can go ahead. We don't have to keep our hands on the wheel. You can if you want to, obviously, but we'll just go ahead and keep them right on our knees here and just see how we do. Let's go ahead and boost this up to 65 because we're in 65 here. And I like this nice clean layout here. This is my favorite of the different options. But you can see it's keeping me away from that car in front of me. I can change my follow distance with this gap adjust button here. So I've got it all the way down. But you can probably see like it is steering me, right? But we're actually gonna get off the highway up here and then turn around and come back the other way, and we'll see kind of how it handles the exits here. Sometimes it will initiate lane changes. You can obviously do it by requesting one by pushing up on the turn signal stalk, but it will do it if you've got slow traffic in front of you sometimes. But we are getting off the highway, so that doesn't matter as much. So I'm gonna go ahead and turn us here onto this ramp. And I'm gonna do this exact same path with both vehicles, the Tesla and the Equinox here, so you can see a direct one-to-one comparison on how it handles this exact situation. All right, so we're back on the highway now. You can see I've taken my hands back off the wheel. We are driving along, no issues whatsoever. It's keeping me in the lane. Let's see when it decides to initiate a lane change here, or if it does at all. Got this car kind of close here. It's keeping me in the center of the lanes. Obviously there's no cars in front of me, so it doesn't have to do any distance monitoring there. We can go ahead and boost our speed up a little bit. 5 over, or 7 over. Bit. So now we have this cement mixer in front of me here, so it's going to slow me down to keep me away from that. And I wouldn't be surprised if we try to initiate a lane change here to get around this slower traffic. It's not doing it quite yet, maybe because it sees someone in my blind spot. See, now would be a good time to do it. Let's go ahead and force it. Well, it won't let me. Why is that? It said I had to take control. Let's try it again here. It's not doing auto lane change. Take control to change lanes. All right, well, we'll take over and do it. That's interesting. Not sure why. but now the green light's back on, it's back in control. So that I definitely really like. I like that you can take control, change lanes, and then it will re-engage when you take your hands back off the wheel and it knows that it's in the proper lane. That is awesome. And I can see that being perfect for road tripping, right? You're on a long stretch of road, it's doing some auto lane changes for you, but eventually you need to just pull off real quick, pull back on. It'll disengage briefly, turn blue as you're controlling, and then, like for example, we'll do this, see how it turned blue, and then you're like, all right, I'm back where I need to be, hands off, it takes a sec, and it re-engages and turns green. That is awesome, very cool. And you'll see how that's different than Tesla here in a minute. These cars are slowing down in front of me, so it's coming to a stop. It does a really good job with like braking and accelerating. There's not a lot of stuttering. It doesn't kind of, you know, struggle to decide what it's gonna do. Like it does a good job. Like this car's merging over, so it needs to slow down a little bit. Once it sees that car, it's gonna go ahead and, yep, put on the brakes hard. So it didn't really see that car to be able to let it in like some other kind of more smart systems would, but it did what it was supposed to do, right? It slowed down once it detected that car oncoming. Another car merge here. Like merges are interesting with Super Cruise here. It's a little close for my liking, but once it sees the car, it does slow down. But I've had my hands off of the wheel this entire time outside of the couple times I've switched lanes, but it's not beeped at me. I've been keeping my eyes fixed forward. It knows I'm paying attention with that little sensor there. That makes the whole driving experience a lot less kind of draining and intensive than if you were to have your hands on the wheel, be making every steering adjustment, every lane change, all that kind of stuff. It's nice. I can even take a little sip of my water bottle and it doesn't beep at me. How nice. The biggest downside, obviously, is the conditions really have to be perfect or this doesn't work, and that's unfortunate. But we are gonna take this exit, so I'm gonna take control here. I'm gonna change lanes. Again, it turns blue, letting you know that you're in control. And of course now we're driving in an exit lane, so Super Cruise is no longer available, so we get no lights on the steering wheel. And I just can't say enough good things about how smooth the drive is with the Equinox here. It's just a really, really relaxing, quiet, smooth, fun driving experience, even when you're not using Super Cruise, even when you're driving yourself. I said this in my full review, but I really do think Chevy is going to sell a lot of these. All right, so we're getting back on the highway here. I know it's not gonna let me start it yet, but once we actually merge over here into traffic, I'm sure it will start it for me, or let me start it. Yeah, let's try and get over one more lane so we get a little more free-flowing traffic here. I picked a great time to try and shoot this, just right at rush hour. But luckily the Equinox is quick enough to merge easily, and we can go ahead and turn Super Cruise on. So again, whoa, that was a bird. That bird just got obliterated. Did you guys see that? I can't believe I got that on camera. So thankfully we are back engaged after that bird unfortunately passed, and we are, you know, keeping us in the middle of the lane, all good. It's really unfortunate, honestly, that this doesn't work in more conditions. Like, even back there, when I was merging onto the highway, it took a really long time to recognize that I was off the highway, and I'm not sure if that's because I still thought I was on the merging lane, or if that's because that's a not mapped highway. That would really stink. You're driving all along, you're on this mapped highway, and then all of a sudden it cuts off because it doesn't have the data anymore. That would be a huge bummer to ruin your drive. But look at how much of a turn it's taking me on right now. Really good stuff there. Again, I can't emphasize enough how just kind of relaxing this is, right? You're just sitting here, you know, you're still paying attention, obviously, always be paying attention. But look, this car's slamming on its brakes. I'm not touching the brake, but the car slowed way down. That's why these systems exist. Again, I have to emphasize, we're in perfect conditions here. It's partly cloudy, warm, no rain, snow, mud, sleet, any of that kind of stuff. Pre-mapped highways. Everything's perfect. The system should work perfectly. All right, we do need to get over though, so let's see if it'll do, I don't know why it won't do auto lane changes. So we're hopping off the highway here. Let's go ahead and grab the Tesla, take it on this same path, see how it does, and then we'll wrap it up and talk about it at the end. All right, so now we're in my 2024 Tesla Model 3. Now I'm gonna do the first bit of this test with just regular autopilot, but then I'm gonna have to stop and switch to FSD and then hop back on the highway for the second part. So hopefully the little autopilot, you know, snippet just gives you a taste of what you would get for free on every single Tesla. All right, so I'm gonna go ahead and switch to auto steer. So this is going to let me use just regular autopilot. It will not let me bring up the full screen visualizations though until I switch to full self. So we'll go ahead and just get going. And see, with autopilot, we can go ahead and just turn it on right now. And you're gonna see we get 2 lanes here. It's gonna keep me in that lane, and it's gonna keep me preset speed. You can turn the speed up right here, and let's see how far of this curve it takes me around. Not so good on that, but we can go ahead and get going up here, turn it back on, and it's gonna slow me down because this car's slowing way down. And we are gonna go ahead and switch lanes here. See what happens if I try and take over? Disengages. That's one thing Super Cruise has that I really like, although we are just on a city street here. So if we go ahead and re-engage it, see how much of a curve it's taking me around? That's a pretty strong curve. That's it's not child's play there. All right, so we're getting here up onto the highway. Let's go ahead and change lanes here. Be prepared to take control of the wheel, and if I don't keep my hands on the wheel, it's going to beep at me. So even if I put my speed all the way up, it'll eventually want me to acknowledge that I'm still there. Although this is pretty good. This is, I mean, I'm keeping my hands off for quite a long time here. This is good. This is the longest I've ever gone without autopilot nag. Okay. It'll definitely nag you more on full self. I know that for a fact. There it is right there. Apply slight turning force. You can just scroll this wheel here. This is what's comparable, in my opinion, to Super Cruise. I don't really like to compare FSD to Super Cruise, and that's not me being a Tesla fanboy. You can be mad about it, and you can argue about it, but they're 2 different systems, right? Like, Super Cruise only works in very, very specific conditions, and it only works on the highway. FSD works everywhere. That's just a fact. So I like to compare it more to Autopilot, but even comparing it to Autopilot, Autopilot still works everywhere. So it's a little hard really to compare any of these other systems to Autopilot or full self-driving. But, you know, for the sake of information, we're doing it in this video. So we're slowing down here because we're getting close to this ramp here. And let's see, it's probably not gonna do super well on this. Yeah, I have to kind of take control there. So it won't take this sharp of a turn. Full self-driving will, but not autopilot. So we're gonna get up here. So we'll put it in park, we'll go up here, switch from autopilot auto steer to full self-driving. Check that. All right, now we are in FSD. So I can start driving, we can swipe over, and we get the full 3D visualizations that we can pivot all around. All kinds of great visualization information there. I can see there's cars around me. I can see the traffic lights, and we should be good to go. All right, so we're merging onto the highway here. We got turned around, we've got full self-driving turned on, and I can engage it right now. And it just takes over. I don't have to wait till I'm off the highway. It's just gonna go ahead and take right over for me, and you can see all the visualizations on screen here. It's gonna auto lane change for me to get me off of the merge lane. And I've done plenty of videos on full self-driving. If you guys wanna watch those, I'll have them linked down below. But this lane is also going to end, so it's gonna need to merge me over again. So it's gonna slow me down and then go ahead and merge me over here. So it waited a little longer than I would have, but it did it. And see, it's making me apply slight turning force. It's gonna go ahead and merge me over into a faster lane. And we're cruising. And it's gonna merge me over again for a faster lane. So just already several lane changes here. But it is getting me in the fastest lane here, get me past some of this traffic. And obviously you can see it's keeping me in the center of the lane, no drifting. There's another nag, got to apply some slight force. But I mean, we're cruising here. And once it drops here to the 55 speed limit here, off of 65, you'll notice it changes here, and then the car will automatically adjust, maintain speed for traffic flow, and slow me right down. That's something that I didn't check if Super Cruise does. I don't know if it auto updates your speed based on road signs. I'll have to look that up. I'll put a note on screen. But I didn't notice it doing that. It seemed to just be dictated by what I set the speed to be. Another nag there. Again, Super Cruise, no nags. But that is coming when they switch to just the cabin camera in 12.4. I'm currently on FSD 12.3.6. So 12.4 supposedly fixes that with the cabin camera only, which is currently what Super Cruise kind of does, but with their little camera here. So that'll be a nice welcomed change. I'm doing the same thing I was doing with Super Cruise. You know, hands on my knees, right by the steering wheel in case I need to take over, looking straight ahead, but, you know, apply slight turning force. So you can either jiggle it like this, or you can spin the wheel, and it works either way. Now, if I were to look away for extended periods of time, it's going to beep at me with a red steering wheel and say, pay attention to the road. But I never get those. Some people get so many of them that they get locked out of FSD. I don't know how you guys do that. You must really be bad drivers or not paying attention, because I've never had that happen where it's beeped at me enough to lock me out or give me a strike or whatever. And I've driven a lot of FSD miles. A lot. Never had that issue. Again, we've got really easy traffic flow here, so not a lot of sudden stops or a lot of people merging in and out. It's pretty seamless. We're just kind of free flowing down the highway here. You know, we got a little traffic here and there. Maybe on the way back when it gets a little bit more messy over here, you'll see a little bit more of its kind of stop and go abilities. But right now, I mean, we're just cruising. So we're cruising still. I do want to get over here because we need to get off this exit. So I'm going to go ahead and put on my turn signal to force a lane change here. It's looking for the right time. All right, it thinks that's the right time, so it's going to go ahead and go. That was very aggressive. That Outback was very close to me, but it went, and it had space, to be fair. So aggressive, but it worked. So we're approaching the exit up here that we need to get off. Now, if you remember, when we were using Super Cruise, when I got closer to that exit, it disengaged because it was saying, you know, leaving exit lane or something along those lines. I can't remember the exact wording. So I'm actually on the exit lane now, and I didn't have to do anything special. It's wanting to take me to the right, and I don't want to go that way, so I did turn it off for a sec. But if I had an actual destination in here, which I can do, so now it knows which, you know, where we're actually trying to go, so it would take the correct lane changes there. But if you're using this, you're probably traveling, and so you're going to have a destination put in. So the light turned green, it went ahead and just went. Didn't have to do anything there, which I love.
500 feet, turn left to take the Interstate 64 East ramp. Now turn left to take the Interstate 64 East ramp.
And we're about to hop on the highway here. So it went ahead and took me on my left turn here, and then we are headed back to the highway. So I'm not doing anything. Again, this is the beauty of FSD. It has its flaws for sure, but the fact that I can just let it do its thing, I can let it lane change here, get back on the highway. I don't have to disengage and re-engage or take over and do all that type of stuff, at least not in these kind of ideal situations. Niche scenarios, sure. Complicated scenarios, sure. You know, sometimes bad weather, that happens for sure. But with how it's going right now, again, perfect conditions, partly cloudy day, nice and warm, no weather issues whatsoever, rain, snow, sleet, mud, nothing like that. We're cruising and doing fine. So the fact that I don't have to take over and anything like that just makes it a more seamless experience, if that makes sense. It's less like, oh, it can only do this, oh, it can only do that. It's just always on, and if you need to disengage it, you can just, you know, turn the wheel kind of strongly like that and it will disengage, or you can push the little button here one time. You can disengage, re-engage, super easy, just like you can on the Equinox with the little Super Cruise button. Like I said, with Super Cruise though, I like that you can change lanes or disengage it temporarily without turning the whole system off. That's one thing I really hope they bring to FSD. Just don't quite have it yet. But again, you know, it's taken me around real sharp turns here, big curves in the highway, no issues. I mean, you saw it take me on a very hard left turn, no problems at all. So these slight bends in the highway are nothing for FSD. I love just being able to see what's around me nice and clearly. You can even see traffic in the other lanes. It's switching me lanes here, which is kind of unnecessary, but I guess it knows there's people merging over here, so it's trying to get me out of that. Now it's going to put me back in the other lane. We got a BMW here on this Carvana truck. And if I want to really speed up, I can. Merging me again. You can get a nice clear view of what's around you there. Now again, it may seem unfair to compare FSD to Super Cruise, but honestly, that's what people do, right? When you read online, it's FSD versus Blue Cruise versus Super Cruise versus Highway Drive versus Travel Assist. That's what you see. In my mind, they're not comparable systems. In my mind, Super Cruise is Autopilot, not FSD. FSD is different. But I wanted to be able to lay it out for you guys so you could really see kind of what you get in a more practical sense, what it actually looks like to use both of these systems. All right, so we've used Super Cruise, Autopilot, and FSD. What are kind of the pros and cons that I see with each of those systems? Well, let's start with Super Cruise. First and foremost, it is fully hands-free at this exact moment, at point of purchase. It's already hands-free. It uses that little sensor right behind the steering wheel, and it will monitor your eyes, make sure you're paying attention, and it will let you keep your hands off the wheel. Truly hands-free. Another point to Super Cruise is that you can actually take over, kind of disengage it without truly disengaging it. So you can, navigate if you need to, get off the exit, that kind of stuff without the full system actually shutting down and turning off. It will just turn blue at the top of the steering wheel, let you drive for a second, and then when it gets you back in the lane and it's appropriate for it to take over, it will do so. Now I can see this being really helpful for wanting to just quickly navigate lane changes or avoid an obstacle. The only problem is that when you actually get off of a pre-mapped highway, it's not going to let you do this. It's just going to turn off the whole system because it can't work if it goes off of that pre-mapped highway. Another thing about Super Cruise that's both good and bad is that it relies on a lot of data, right? So it brings in LiDAR data, it brings in radars, it brings in ultrasonic sensors, it brings in the high-def cameras, all that kind of stuff, and it brings in that pre-mapped data onto the system. Now, while this does really well in those perfect scenarios I was describing, like, pre-mapped highways, which is the only place it works, it really starts to fall apart when you go off those pre-mapped highways or if there's just limited location data about a specific highway. So while it's great that it relies on all these different factors, the fact that it can't kind of improvise in any kind of way and take over when it's off a pre-mapped highway or it has limited data, that's a big downside in my opinion. And the last little downside about Super Cruise, in my opinion, is that they don't have a low-speed version of Super Cruise. So something akin to Toyota's Traffic Jam Assist, where it will do like under 25 miles an hour, kind of when you're in that stop-and-go city traffic where it's bumper to bumper and you're just kind of inching forward, slowing down, speeding up over a long period of time when you're sitting in that city traffic. If it can manage keeping you away from vehicles in front of you and maintaining speed at highway speeds, there's no reason that it shouldn't be able to do hands-free on the city streets using the sensors. I understand not everything can be pre-mapped, but using all those sensors that they brag about, the high-def cameras, the LiDAR, the ultrasonic, all that kind of stuff. Using all that, it should be able to do a stop and go on city streets. Now, as far as the usability of Super Cruise, I found it pretty intuitive. One thing that I didn't notice while actually driving is that when Super Cruise is available, the little Super Cruise icon will appear on screen. I think I was too busy focusing on what was in front of me and I wasn't paying attention to everything on the little screen. So I was trying to push the button before the little Super Cruise steering wheel popped up. That will let you know when it is able to be activated. The only weird thing that I experienced was that it was originally doing auto lane changes for me, but when I was requesting a lane change, it didn't work. It said that I had to take over and do the lane change, which may have just been a situational thing that I was experiencing, but it was a little weird. All right, so now let's talk about the Tesla side. How do Autopilot and FSD compare to Super Cruise? Well, first and foremost, you can use Autopilot and FSD on city streets and highways, whether they're pre-mapped or not. So big point to Tesla there, something that Super Cruise just can't do right now. Not saying it won't get better, but right now. Autopilot is free on every single Tesla and comes standard, whereas Super Cruise is only free for the first 3 years of ownership, and then it's $25 a month after that, or $250 a year. So still more affordable than full self-driving, which is $99 a month if you want to pay monthly, and we don't even have to talk about it if you buy it outright. It's ridiculously expensive. Don't do that. But as far as free systems, you have to give the point to Autopilot, because Super Cruise just isn't free for everybody and isn't free the whole time. Now, the free version of Autopilot cannot do the automatic lane changes and cannot take you off highway exits like the enhanced Autopilot can, which is what I have sort of, but I never use it. I just use full self-driving. But regardless, Super Cruise wins out over free Autopilot because it can do those auto lane changes. So Super Cruise, auto lane changes and hands-free. Autopilot, not hands-free, no auto lane changes on the free version, but both of them have very, very good lane keeping and adaptive cruise control. Now, Super Cruise versus FSD. Super Cruise, again, free for the first 3 years, $25 a month after that, or $250 a year. Full self-driving, never free, but you can get a free 3-month trial if you use someone's referral link, which they've actually ended that program, but they're going to be bringing out a different referral program. So whenever they bring out the different referral program, I'll put my referral link back in if you guys want to order one and you want to get 3 months of free FSD, but you can't do it right now. So $99 a month for FSD, or you can pay an exorbitant amount of money up front, which I would not recommend doing. So you kind of have to give it to Super Cruise the fact that it's free for the first 3 years. And you have to give it to Super Cruise that is a true hands-free system right now, whereas FSD is supposedly going to be a full hands-free option very soon. So I may make a follow-up to this video in maybe a few weeks when I get update 12.4 to FSD, which should make it hands-free and rely solely on the cabin camera that's right here. FSD is also now vision only, so you don't have any ultrasonic sensors that are accessible now, and that's definitely a con. But Tesla Vision is pretty good, and you do have cameras all over the car that help it, keep you in the lanes and transition and keep yourself away from cars and things like that, which is all great. And the fact that they've switched FSD from standard lines of code to an AI-based system where it's constantly learning and constantly evolving is a huge plus for FSD over Super Cruise. Both systems have very effective lane keeping, very effective adaptive cruise control, and can do auto lane changes for you. But where Super Cruise kind of starts to fall apart and FSD starts to rise up is all of the intermediate things. Obviously, the city driving, Super Cruise can't do, FSD can do. Obviously, the really tight turns, FSD can do, Super Cruise can't. But if you stick just to the highway driving situation and the traveling situation, FSD can still take you off exits, take you back on, merge you lanes, all that kind of stuff, where Super Cruise doesn't work until you're fully off of that merging lane, actually on the highway where it's pre-mapped. Now, if we give Super Cruise the absolute benefit of the doubt and just do 55 to 75 mile an hour highways, they're very comparable. But it's those little awkward moments of getting off them and getting back on them where you start to go, I just wish it would do it for me. And to be honest, there's really no reason why it shouldn't be able to do it. I think GM's just focused mainly on the traveling experience and less about the kind of on and off ramp experience. And that's fine. So it's really hard to claim one system as being better than another system. They just do different things and they do different things well. But I think personally, I would still choose FSD, and there's a couple reasons why. One, I like that you can use it anywhere. That's just a huge plus in my opinion. I think Super Cruise works really well, and I love the fact that it's hands-free. But once FSD becomes hands-free with just using the cabin camera, and you can just keep your hands on your knees and you can use it city streets, highways, exiting, any of that type of stuff, it's really going to be untouchable until some of these other companies start to incorporate these systems and not just be highway assistance or city assistance. It never blends together seamlessly. And until they do that, I think they're going to be behind FSD. And I love that FSD is constantly evolving. The fact that they're, getting rid of the steering wheel nag and relying on the cabin camera again is great. The fact that the car can park itself now. The fact that I can just wake up one day and have an entirely new feature is really cool to me. I think all three systems work really well, but personally, I would still choose FSD, which is probably obvious because I'm sitting in a Tesla. But thanks so much for watching, guys. I hope you enjoyed the video or at least found it helpful. If you did, drop a like on the video. Let me know down in the comments what you think, which system you prefer, or is there another semi-autonomous driving feature that you want me to put up against FSD and Autopilot? Let me know down in the comments. And don't forget to hit that subscribe button to be among the first to see every single new video the second I hit publish. We'll see you in the next one.